So I was just sitting waiting in a Foamstars queue the other day, and I thought to myself, people often like to talk about this character needs a nerf, this character needs a buff, but they never mention how. So I thought it'd be interesting. How would I buff and nerf every single character? If I had to sit down and make 2 changes for every single character, 1 buff and 1 nerf, what would I do? And that's where this video came in. A couple community members wanted me to make it, so here it is. So we're going in character order here, and we're starting with the buffs and then doing the nerfs. So the first thing we're going to talk about, how would I buff Soa? Soa as a character is an extreme DPS class. She is the character that runs into battle, does a metric ton of damage, and then runs out of battle, only to repeat that process over and over for the majority of the game. However, her ability to run out of the battle is often determined by her team. If her team isn't foaming well enough, she really can't get in or out of battle unless she has Bubble Step. But you shouldn't have to rely on one move for your entire game plan. So I'm going to give her a bit of a backup option for getting in or out of battle, and that's just make her gun better at foaming. If Soa's better at foaming with the gun, that means you can run into battle with Bubble Step, and then to get out of battle, you can just foam a path for yourself easily. That's not a foolproof plan, and it shouldn't be. It's a backup option, not your main option. If the team is still able to get around and chill you while you're doing that, good for them. But it does give Soa an option to be more self-sufficient than she is right now, because without a team, a Soa is not very effective. I think this buff will not make her over-centralizing, I just think it'll make her more self-sufficient, which is something that I think she needs. Sure, she's not supposed to be the best foamer in the game. In fact, I believe she's the worst foamer in the game, since they buffed Chloe to the moon. But if they're gonna buff Chloe's foaming, then buff Soa's foaming. Clearly buffing foaming isn't something they're against doing. Tell me how many times you've seen Soas run into battle like fucking deranged lunatics and then get themselves killed, only to do it again immediately after they respawn. More than you can count, right? So I think it's a good change to make it so that they're more likely to get out of that situation. Now for how to nerf Soa. Remember just earlier when I said Bubble Step is a move that gets you in and out of battle? Not only is it a move that gets you in and out of battle, it's a move that can just end the battle immediately with how much damage it does. And I think that's a little too much. Well, yes, if you aim it properly, it should be able to do a lot of damage, but I did the math. Each ball from Soa's Bubble Step does 11.25 damage. Soa shoots 16 balls out of a Bubble Step. That is 180 damage. That's too much in my opinion. That should not be the case. Hitting just half of your shots almost kills somebody. I don't think the damage of Bubble Step should be brought to the ground, but I definitely think it should be lowered. I think we can bring the damage of each ball to around 8. Because then if you hit half of the shots from the Bubble Step, you do just above half health to the enemy, which is still a lot of damage. You're still going to want to hit those, but it's less likely to result in doing tons of damage on accident, just by using it as a mobility tool. It's a lot less likely that those shots are going to hit on accident and just do way more damage than they deserve to be doing. I just feel like Soa having the ability to one-shot or almost one-shot people, if she just happens to Bubble Step at the right time, is just a little too much. You should have to work for that damage more than you have to do right now. Moving on over to Agito. Now I've run this Agito buff by a lot of people, and all of them love it. So I'm really proud of this one. So currently, as it is, Agito's Shuriken is almost exclusively used to foam when you're playing as him. It's a really good foaming move. It also seems like it should be used as a mobility tool, since it launches you up, but that's not very easy to do. It's really easy for the enemy team to see it coming, and it's also really hard to even get it in the first place, because the bomb takes a long time to explode. So you have to throw it in a place where that long wait isn't going to kill you, or isn't going to let your enemy get away. So it's pretty hard to use as a mobility tool. Most of the time, most Agitos are just going to use it for foaming. So, how about we change that? Give it an input variant, where if you have a different input on your controller, a different version of the Shuriken will come out. This Shuriken will not travel as far, about as far as maybe a Coiff Hopper throw. It'll explode extremely quickly, and it's a lot smaller. That's it. It doesn't travel as far, so you can't use it for foaming. It explodes quickly so that you can immediately throw it down and use it as a mobility tool. And it's smaller for 2 different reasons. 1, so you can't use it as a weapon. 2, it's harder for the enemy team to see when you're doing it. So Agito can buy more into his assassin kind of game plan. where only Deep Blue Gank is really able to help him with that since the shuriken is so obvious. This input version of the shuriken would not obsolete the bigger shuriken. The bigger shuriken is a better weapon, it's better at foaming because it travels further, and you can still use it as a mobility tool, just not as effective as the input version. I think giving Agito an input version of the shuriken would let the shuriken buy into the two things it's supposed to be good at, foaming and mobility. Since right now, all it's really good at is foaming. The mobility is really hard to take advantage of. Now, despite me saying in the intro that I was only going to do one buff and one nerf for every character, for a couple characters I had multiple ideas, and just for the sake of conversation, I'm going to throw them out there. While the input shuriken is the change I would have made if I had to make one buff, there's another idea I had that I want to get out there, just for fun. And this time, it's a buff to Thanks GG, which is not a good move. If you watch my tier list ranking, you'll know that Thanks GG I put as the second worst ultimate in the entire game. So, what's a fun way to buff Thanks GG? And in my opinion, a good way to buff Thanks GG would be to make the explosion the shark cause also shoot Agito up like the shuriken does. I think this change would accomplish a lot more than you would think at first. First things first, I think it would make it much easier for Agito to capitalize on chills. Because if the shark explodes, it launches the enemies up and launches Agito up at the same time. If the shark foams them up, that means a foamed up player and Agito are both in the sky, which is much less likely for the opponent's team to go over and save them if they're in the sky. Secondly, it makes it a lot easier for Agito to get away if he runs up, tries to capitalize on the shark, and realizes that there's too many enemies around. So he can then explode on the shark and use that as a mobility tool to get away. Much harder to hit Agito when he's in the middle of the sky. And lastly, if the shark doesn't foam them up, they are now in the sky with an Agito. And even if the shark hits nobody, it's still a buff, because he can now just use that as a second shuriken, and he can keep his shuriken in his pocket. Like I said, if I had to pick the one buff, I'm picking the input shuriken, but I did want to get this out there as well. As for nerfing him, for the most of this list, I'm going to try to avoid doing extremely simple changes. But for nerfing Agito, why does Deep Blue Gank heal him? It's so dumb that it heals him. It already increases his mobility, it makes him harder to hit, it launches him into the air, it gives him his ammo back. Why does it also heal him? It doesn't have to do that. Deep Blue Gank healing Agito is only annoying for the people fighting against him. If Agito runs into a battle he can't win, Deep Blue Gank should be able to get him out of that battle, but it shouldn't be able to let him dive into the ground, heal in the middle of the battle, and then immediately continue the battle like he didn't just take all of that damage that he took. That is ridiculous. That should not be a thing. It's not game-breaking, but it's just really annoying and invalidates what should be Agito's weakness, which is going into a battle he can't take. That and range. And there's even this, weird glitch in the game, where if you throw the shuriken down, dive into the ground with Deep Blue Gank, and then the shuriken blows you up, it'll blow you out of Deep Blue Gank, but you'll get the Deep Blue Gank recharge back, which means you can dive into the ground again and heal again. This would also fix that Agito full heal glitch that shouldn't exist. I really don't see much of a reason for Deep Blue Gank to be able to do that. Now, I don't really think Tonix is a character that needs that much of a buff. If you're not doing well as Tonix doesn't need a buff, you need to get good. But there is one change that I think we should do. And that one change is to make the Tonix Bomb have more health. I haven't tested its exact health value, however I know its health is equal to or less than 50, which is way too low in my opinion. Tonix as a character is a foamer that's also extremely capable of doing damage. And she has a bomb that when it explodes, it does damage and foams. That fits her character design perfectly. However, it rarely is ever going to explode because its health is way too low. So I think not only does buffing its health up make it more likely to explode, I think buffing its health up just makes Tonix feel more like she's supposed to. It fits Tonix much better. I think its health should be similar to Chloe's Bat Bomb, where yeah, if you have enough time to react and shoot at it, you can very easily destroy it, but honestly most of the time it won't end up getting destroyed, which I think is a good thing. Even if it does explode, a lot of the time you can run out of the range anyway, so it's not like it'd make the Tonix Bomb oppressive, it would just make it explode more often. If you have an ability in the game, you don't want that ability to just do absolutely nothing more often than it does something. The fact that you can throw it and they destroy it and it does literally nothing isn't something I think should happen as often as it does. I thought for a while on how to nerf Tonix. I think this one might be a little bit difficult to explain, so listen up. I feel like a lot of what Tonix has is really skill-based. I don't want to nerf something that requires skill to do. Games rewarding skillful play have been a thing since the dawn of video gaming. However, there is one thing about Tonix that I feel like has no skill involved. And that's when you shoot your charge shots halfway across the map at somebody and just hope that they run into it without noticing. If you shoot your shot across the map and some poor unsuspecting sap happens to run into it, half of their health bar is gone immediately. That's a little stupid. I think if Tonix's charge shot is in the air for 3 seconds, maybe less, might have to mess with the time a little bit. But if Tonix's charge shot is in the air for roughly 3 seconds, it does half of the damage. The Tonix should not be able to pelt from halfway across the map a pile of enemies and just hope to do 50 damage. That's way too much. You shouldn't be able to luck into half of someone's health bar. Luck should not be rewarded with that kind of damage. And now, I'm only saying the direct hit should do less damage. The splash damage from the ball, sure, that's perfectly fine. That does enough damage. But if you directly hit someone with a ball that was in the air for 3 or more seconds, there is no reason that should be doing half of their health bar. Now, like I said, you might need to tune the numbers a little bit. 3 might not be enough. 3 might be too much. I'm not sure. However, what I do think is that this would be a really good change to prevent Tonixes from just getting lucky and getting chills from halfway across the map, which I don't think should be the case. I think if you get a chill from halfway across the map, it should either be your character is designed around that or pure skill. Now, the reason that I think it should be this do less damage if it's in the air for a long time thing is because if you're far away and you're able to lead your shot really well, that should be rewarded with high damage. If you're able to hit consistent charge shots from really far away, that's just skill, and that should be rewarded. However, if you shoot the shot into the sky and hope it just goes and lands on somebody, that is not skill, that is luck. So I don't think it should be a range thing. I don't think it's if you're far away it should do less damage. I think it's specifically if you shoot it into the sky and then it lands, it should not be half of the health bar. I think buffing Jet is a really difficult thing to do, because if you do it wrong, you could make a really oppressive character. Because Jet has 3 different options to choose from with every shot that he makes, so you need to be really careful in making sure that the buff that you make doesn't completely break the game. So I thought about it for a little while, and I decided that Cosmic Dive should move a lot further. And by a lot further, I mean a lot further forward in the direction that you're looking. And now that might sound crazy on paper, but I think in practice, it wouldn't be that crazy. Because this is not an Agito dive. This is Jet flying into the sky, showing everybody where he's about to land, and then taking 3 seconds to recover from said landing. So this is not a mobility tool to get you into battle. It is just a mobility tool to get you out of battle. Right now, Cosmic Dive, it kinda can get you out of battle, but only in specific situations on specific maps. Like, you have to jump onto the fountain or something in the garden map. Otherwise, you're not using Cosmic Dive to get away. Because it just takes way too long for the animation to get through. And it doesn't take you far enough that you're getting closer to your teammates or making it so that they have to chase you very far. So I think making Cosmic Dive send you further is a change that would make Jet better at getting away, but not better at getting in. And I think that's good, because a lot of the time when you use Cosmic Dive to try to get away, honestly feels like just a guessing game on if they're willing to chase you or not. I just feel like right now, most of Cosmic Dive's uses are based on praying, using it and hoping they don't move from under you, or using it to run away and hoping they don't chase you. So I think they should give it some use that doesn't involve praying to a god of your choosing. So this is less of a nerf and more of a bug fix, I feel like, but it's something that needs to be fixed. The fact that Jet's charge ball can hit you once and then knock you back so far that it hits you again and you just immediately die, that's dumb. That shouldn't be a thing. That is 100% luck, and I don't think luck should have an insta-kill in this game. If Lady Luck is on your side, you shouldn't be one-shotting people. I know it's a really simple and boring change, but it's just something that doesn't need to be there. I see no need for that to exist. It doesn't add anything except for frustration for the person that got hit by it. It's like a random critical hit. And in a game like Foamstars, random crits do not need to exist, simply put. So now buffing Penny. This Penny buff I think is going to be very simple. However, it would achieve a lot. I think we should make the bubbles that Penny shoots from her main gun move quicker. If the shots that Penny shoot move quicker, that makes Penny less of a copy of Soa. Right now, Penny just feels like Soa, but without mobility a lot of the time. Sure, she has a little bit of extra range, but it's hard to hit from those ranges. So, let's make it less hard to hit from those ranges. It'll make Penny's close and mid-range better, but her long range will be relatively unaffected. Projectiles in this game slow down in the air over time, which means just changing the speed of her bubbles will not make her more annoying from a range. And I'm not saying increase her range. I'm just saying make the bubbles move quicker when they come out of the gun, so that it's a lot easier to aim from mid-range, a lot harder to avoid the Penny from mid-range. So now Penny feels more like a worse close-range Soa, but a better mid-range Soa. As of right now, Penny feels way too similar to Soa with the way that you have to play her. Not to mention that if the shots move quicker and you're better at mid-range, it makes it a lot easier to take advantage of her penguin stuns, which again is something that really needs to happen. That differentiates her from Soa a lot more. Soa's calling card is mobility, Penny's calling card is having stuns. So if the shots move quicker, it'd be a lot easier to hit somebody that you have recently stunned with the penguin. Personally, I think this is a change that really should be implemented. So nerfing Penny is a difficult choice to make. I really don't think Penny needs any form of nerfs, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to make one buff and one nerf, so I'm being forced beyond my will to nerf Penny. And what I say is make the penguin not go as far. With how far the penguin goes right now, if someone gets hit on the tail end of its lifespan, you're really not taking that much advantage of it because it went way too far away from you. It's kind of just a nuisance if you get hit by a penguin from that far away, so it doesn't have to go that far, and it actually going that far just makes Penny more of a foamer, which is not really what she's supposed to be. It's not a big nerf. In fact, it's kind of a trade-off, because if you hit someone with the actual explosion of the penguin, that does a lot more damage, and if the penguin has less of a lifespan, it'd be a lot easier to aim and time that explosion. So it is a nerf. I think it is a nerf, but it's definitely not a major nerf, which is something that Penny doesn't need. Penny does not need any major nerfs. Since Penny is one of the characters I'm less experienced with, I asked community manager and seasoned Penny player, Ultra Ken, his opinions on my Penny changes. So what's your opinion on these Penny changes that I made here?
Kill yourself.
And he loved them, so I think I did a great job. Now, this Rave Breaker buff is a little risky, but I think it would be fine. However, even if it does end up being overpowered, it's really fun, so I don't care. Right now, it's really easy to predict a Rave Breaker who's using Home in the Foam. Even if you don't see the laser coming, it takes him so long to come out of the ground that you can still manage to get out of the way. So what I think is if you fully charge Home in the Foam, Rave Breaker should come out of it much quicker. Now, only the fully charged version, because I don't want you to be able to dive bomb the back lines and then immediately jump out with Home in the Foam and stun the entire enemy team. That's kind of dumb. But if Rave Breaker sits in the ground for long enough to charge up Home in the Foam, he should be rewarded more than he currently is. If you're able to keep your presence hidden for that long, the reward is much more. And I don't think this will be overpowered because Rave Breaker still has the giant laser coming out of the ground telling people where he is. And if they see it's a fully charged Home in the Foam, then they can just get out of the way of the Rave Breaker that's in the ground before he even starts to come out. So it's not like every single time you use Home in the Foam you're going to hit somebody, and you're even able to be shot out of the ground, so you won't even get to come out anyway. However, if Rave is able to hide that giant laser from the enemy team, you should get rewarded for that much easier. And that's why I think fully charged Home in the Foam, he should jump out quicker than he currently does. One other simple idea I thought of was to make him reload quicker. Not much explaining needs to be done here. Obviously, I like the Home in the Foam change more. However, if Rave has a quicker reload, that makes him better at foaming because he doesn't have to spend as much time reloading. That makes it much more likely to survive at close range since he has no mobility tools to get out of a battle. So once he runs out of liquid, he kind of just has to leave. But if his reload is a little bit quicker, then he might be able to get back into that battle a lot easier. Not saying he needs an extremely fast reload, but as of right now, his reload takes so long that you can't even continue shooting the test dummies in the lounge. Which, alright, I don't know about that. Again, Home in the Foam change is better. I would go with that one. But I did want to talk about this just a little bit. The Rave buff was not very simple. The Rave nerf is very simple. The mines foam too much. That's it. The radius of foam that the mine creates is much, much bigger than the radius the mine shows, and I don't... that shouldn't be the case. Honestly, this nerf is more of just fixing a visual inconsistency than anything else, but the fact that it makes that much foam, but its blast radius isn't that big, makes absolutely no sense. I'm not saying shrink the blast radius, I'm just saying to shrink the foaming radius. It should foam less, that's it. Keep the range the same, keep the knockback the same, keep the damage the same, all of that. Just make it make less foam, it's so stupid. Buffing the Baristador. This change is a change I think every single barista main in the world wants. Bitter Drip's end lag is stupid. Why does it take that long to throw out that bad of an ability? I feel like Bitter Drip's use should be, there's 2 different piles of foam that you have to get rid of as barista. Shoot Bitter Drip at one pile, start shooting the other pile. And while you can do that right now, it kind of just feels like a waste because of how long Bitter Drip takes to come out. Like, you're seriously wasting like 2 whole seconds just to make Bitter Drip come out. At that point, just wait for Super City Roast to charge. While you're shooting one pile, Super City Roast will be charged back up and you can go use it on the other pile. It feels pointless to use Bitter Drip a lot of the time just because it takes too long. So make it really quick. If Bitter Drip takes like no time at all to come out, it has use over Super City Roast because Super City Roast does take a little while to come out. Sure, it's a lot worse at foaming, but that's the point. It's the faster foaming option, but the worse foaming option. What a quick Bitter Drip can do, let's say there are 2 piles of foam. Shoot Bitter Drip at one pile, use Super City Roast on the other pile, both piles of foam are gone. That's good. Baristador is supposed to be a foamer. Foaming support character. There we go. Figuring out how to nerf Baristador I think was the most difficult decision of this video, because a lot of the things that you could change about him would either nerf him into obscurity or get rid of things unique to him, nothing of which I think should happen. Like, sure, a lot of people complain about his range, but do you really want to make him more similar to Rave Breaker? I advocated for Penny to be less similar to Soa earlier. I'm not going to advocate for decreasing Barista's range and making him just Rave 2. And let's say, okay, then just make him do less damage at a range. Okay, sure, you can do that, but if he does less damage at a range, no one's going to want to use him like that. They're all going to go into close range like they do with Rave Breaker. So once again, people are going to start playing Barista like they play Rave Breaker. If you give him less liquid, it makes his foaming worse. If you make his reloading worse, it makes his foaming worse. Ultimately, I decided on this. Like how I said earlier how all projectiles slow down over time, make baristas slow down quicker. This makes it harder for a barista to harass people from far away, because it's much easier for the enemy team to react to the slow falling projectile being shot at them. And it's harder for barista to aim from that range. But not impossible. If the enemy doesn't know barista is there, the enemy doesn't know where barista is coming from, or even the enemy is distracted so they don't care about the barista is still able to properly aim the projectile. So this doesn't make Barista more like Rave Breaker because he still has long range. He can still put out a lot of damage from long range. It's just a lot harder to be annoying from long range, because the enemy can see and predict the falling of the projectile much easier than they can right now. And I'm not saying that the projectile should move slower up close, because that would just mess with the muscle memory of way too many Barista players. That's a bad change. I don't think that should happen. But if it moves slower when they're shooting from afar, I think that is a good change. I think the only reasonable thing on Mel T's kit that's worth buffing is the ultimate. Mel T's ult is steamy doo-doo garbage ass, and everything else she has is crazy good. But I think the only thing that you can reasonably buff is the ult. But we don't want to buff this ult too much, because it is a full map range massive laser that has the potential to get really degenerate really quickly. So I think I came up with a pretty creative solution. I think the laser should do more damage the closer you are to the Mel T. This accomplishes a couple things. First off, it gives the laser a much more offensive use. And since it's a giant laser, I feel like it should do more damage than it currently does. However, if it does more damage at base, that should be really annoying when the Mel T pelts you with this giant laser from halfway across the map. So it shouldn't do more damage if you're at the tip of it. But if you're closer to her and she manages to hit you, then it should do a lot of damage. This also makes it so that people are less likely to chase down the Mel T as soon as she uses the ult. If you hear a Mel T using the ult, you can just run over to her and take her out unless her team is defending her like bodyguards. If you do that now, with this change implemented, it's possible that the laser will come out before you get there, And since you're directly next to the Mel T, you're just gonna get melted. Just like the ice cream. As of right now, the ultimate's real only use is foaming, which doesn't make any sense because it really is just a massive fucking death laser. So I think it should have much more of an offensive prowess. Not from a range though, because that would be really, really annoying. Now I don't mean for any nerfs or buffs in this video to sound extremely simple and obvious, but just make the cones do less damage, man. A lot of people dance around it, try to think of, oh, we'll make her reload slower, or give her less liquid, or anything. Just make the cones do less damage, dude. Don't be a little bitch. From the range that she can lock on, she's able to shoot enough cones out of the gun to one-shot somebody, to insta-kill them, before they even know what's going on. Every cone does 15 damage. That means it only takes 7 cones to kill somebody. That is too small of a number. If someone doesn't know you're there, and you shoot 3 bursts of cones, they're probably dead, unless they happen to be directly next to a wall, in which case, the ice cream cones are homing, they might go around the wall anyway, and the fact that they do 15 damage means that Mel T from point fucking blank is still able to kill people consistently, because all she has to do is shoot the ground, and if she shoots the ground and the cones hit people, she has done 45 damage with her burst of cones. That's dumb. She's supposed to be weak from close range, and she's just not, as long as you can aim at the ground, which everybody can do that. Just make the cones do less damage, man. I'm not saying make them go back to Season 1 levels of bad, but as of right now, quit dancing around the problem. Just fix the problem at the goddamn source and make the cones do less damage. For buffing Coiff, the only thing I can really think of is make the Coiff Hopper give you more forwards momentum. I feel like right now, all the Hopper really does is encouraging a Coiff to just sit in one place the whole time. And I don't think that's particularly good design for a move. I don't think the move should encourage you to not do anything. And sure, you can still use the Hopper like that if you want to. I'm not saying that should be taken away. But what I am saying is that if you want to use the Hopper as more of a mobility tool, play more of an aggressive Coiff Guy, you should be able to do that. The Coiff Hopper should give you more forwards momentum than it currently does. As of right now, there's honestly no point in using it as a forwards momentum tool, since it doesn't give you enough to really be worth throwing down most of the time. You might honestly be better off just staying on the board. So giving Coiff Hopper more forwards momentum would kind of activate a more aggressive Coiff playstyle. I don't think Coiff Hopper should encourage you to stay out of the battle. Sure, Coiff is kind of a long-range character, but with the fact that his projectiles have a timer on them, which means they just explode after a little while, means that you still have to get close. So Coiff is a character that can afford to have a more aggressive playstyle. But simply as it is now, the Hopper doesn't give you enough momentum, Coiff Dive has too much end lag, so there is no place for an aggressive Coiff playstyle as it is right now. So I actually think giving Coiff Hopper more forwards momentum would be a really, really good change, because it would encourage an entirely different playstyle for a character that doesn't have any different ways to play most of the time. Now for nerfing him, this is probably going to be one of the more contentious things that I say, but I think just get rid of the knockback on the cannon entirely. Not just lower it, just get rid of it entirely. I feel like it's only bad for both players. Because, in fact, I don't even know if this is a nerf. It probably is, but I don't know for sure. Hear me out. Coiff, to me, his projectiles don't move quick enough for them to not be avoidable. You can definitely avoid Coiff's projectiles from a range. So, why does he have knockback that knocks you back into the range where those projectiles could be avoided? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And knockback isn't fun for the player getting hit by it, because they lose control of their character. And when you play a video game, you want to have control of your character. They don't want to sit here and play their multiplayer shooter game and then just be forced to go where they don't want to go. Be forced to move in ways they don't want to do. That's not what they want. If you're playing this game, you want to have control over your player. So knockback taking that control away is just not fun. And for the Coiff player, if you're shooting somebody and your knockback knocks them out of the range in which they cannot react to your projectiles, well, that was just a fucking waste. Now they just ran away because of the knockback. So it makes him less annoying to fight against because you have control over it, but it also makes it a lot easier for him because 1, he doesn't have to predict where his enemy is going to get knocked back to, and 2, It won't knock the enemy further away, therefore making it more likely they can dodge your projectiles. Now, yes, I am advocating for removing something unique to him. Well, not necessarily unique to him. Tonix's charge shots also have knockback, but it's not even close to the same thing. However, he has knockback in Coiff Dive, and knockback moves do exist. Sure, not in the same vein as the knockback on his cannon, but like I said, that kind of knockback is just not good for either person. So, I don't really see a reason for it to be there. It doesn't contribute anything fun to either player. It's just kind of annoying. Hello, it's me from the future editing this. When I say this, I don't mean that it's not fun to have knockback, because I can definitely see where the fun can come from when you knock your opponents around. However, when I said that, what I meant is that it's not fun optimally, because if you're trying to be optimally, ideally you don't want to knock them out of the range in which you're doing the most damage, and the range that you're doing the most damage is the range where it's easiest to hit your shots. So just a little correction there on what I meant with that. Chloe's viability is made by two things, in my opinion. One is her gun being really good, two is her ult being really good. I don't think we can buff the other two abilities enough for them to really change her viability very much. So, which one of the two good things am I buffing? And I'm picking the ult, because right now, Chloe is the least played character, I think. I don't know that for sure, but I feel like I see the least Chloes around right now in the game. So if Chloe's that character with the broken ultimate, that could definitely give her much more of a player base. The change I'm going to make is really simple, but I believe it would accomplish a lot. And that's during the dodge that she does in midair during the ult, you should be able to charge your shots during that. Because as of right now, if the enemy team is shooting at you and you have to keep dodging, you can't really shoot at all. It's like really hard to get any shots in because you just have to keep dodging to save your life. So the fact that the enemy team can waste your ultimate just by shooting in your general direction, I think that's dumb. I think they should still be able to damage you, kill you, take you out of the ultimate, because sure, that's their reward for attacking you. If they're able to shoot at you and take you down, that's fair. But they shouldn't be able to counter you just by shooting at you. So if Chloe can charge during the dodge, that means, sure, they still might be able to kill you, but during the dodge, you can charge up your shots and shoot at them anyway. So you're still getting mileage out of your ultimate while the enemy team is shooting at you. And say they're unable to hit you because you keep dodging. Okay, maybe that's a little bit annoying. However, it's also annoying for the Chloe to try to aim repeatedly while constantly flying in multiple different directions over and over. A lot of the time, you can't really hit shots that easily unless you're right above them, because the shots don't move that fast. So it's still not like it's going to make Chloe's ultimate unstoppable. It's still going to be very stoppable, but it's going to be a lot better and a lot less annoying for the Chloe player, which I feel like Chloe could use that. Chloe could use something like that. Now, nerfing Chloe, I actually am going to nerf the gun, which is kind of funny that I just said those are the only two things making her viability. But trust me, it's not a big nerf. I think that after shooting the shots, and then while they're just sitting there and not moving, that should not do full damage. The fact that you could shoot 3 charge shots, miss all 3, and still get a chill because some poor sap didn't see them and walked into them, that's dumb. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. It is really rare for it to happen. That's why it's not a big nerf. But the fact that it can happen is just dumb to me. Sure, make them do damage. Make it so that it hurts you to do that. But they shouldn't do full damage while they're just sitting there. Maybe half the damage that they normally do. Because the fact that you can still get chills even after literally missing your shots just by getting lucky that someone happens to walk into it, that makes no sense to me. Luck should not have that much of a place in this game. And while it's extremely uncommon for it to happen, if it's so uncommon, that means that it's mostly based on luck if it ends up happening. And I don't think that should really be the case. You can't really make traps with it either, because they're really big and obvious bubbles just sitting there. So if you run into that big and obvious bubble, yeah, it's your fault, but what if you're just trying to back away from the Chloe currently shooting at you? And then, oh, whoopsie, the Chloe's 3 shots that she missed has now 1 shot killed me because I just happened to be walking in the wrong direction. I don't think that's necessary. Wait, that's not his name, bro. That's not his name. That's not his name! So hey, fun fact. Did you know that Ramzey is unable to pile foam with his gun? Isn't that a really cool fun fact? And it's also really fucking dumb. Why can't he fucking do that? It's literally in the tutorial of this game that you can pile foam by shooting at a pile of foam. Why can a character in the game not do that? Is there really any explaining I need to do? Do I really need to explain my reason on this? Why can't he pile foam? It's a game mechanic. Apparently important enough to be in the fucking tutorial. Why can't he do that? Since that was such a simple change, I am gonna bid you one more buff. And this buff is make it so that the bombs are more capable of launching into each other. If the first explosion of the bomb hits you, it should be more likely to launch you into the second bomb. Because right now, those bombs aren't really capable of any form of offensive prowess. I think it would be fun if the first explosion can knock you into the second explosion much more consistently. Not the third explosion, because that'd be a little annoying. And by a little annoying, I mean a lot annoying. But as of right now, getting hit by the first bomb and then getting launched into the second is an extremely uncommon occurrence. And it's not like this would change that much, because if you get hit by the first explosion, the Ramzey's probably going to be there to kill you anyway. So it really would not buff him that much. It would make that bomb's offensive prowess more interesting compared to some other bombs, just by the fact that it's one explosion that launches you into another. Nerfing Ramzey is something a lot of people say need to happen. Now, me personally, I don't think he's that overpowered, but that's not the point. The point is that we're nerfing Ramzey right now, whether I want to or not. The nerf that I propose is that if the balls hit the ground, they should not bounce up and do a whole 10 damage. With how long the lifespan of the balls are, how quickly he can shoot them, how far they can go, they shouldn't do a whole 10 damage. That means you only need to hit 10 of them to take someone out. That's a little much for a character that's supposed to be a close-range offensive one. Ramzey as a character is supposed to get right up in your face and get quick chills and then get right out of your face. But he can also just pelt you from really far away with these really long-range, long lifespan 10 damaging shots. That's a little bit much. I don't think they should do a whole 10. And I still think if they don't bounce on the ground, they should still do 10 damage. Like, if you shoot them, lob them at somebody, and it hits them before the balls hit the ground, sure, that should still do 10 damage. But if the ball bounces on the ground a single time, that should then lower its damage to something like, let's go with like 8.75 or maybe 8.5. That way, Ramzey's pelting you with these bouncy balls from halfway across the map is a lot less oppressive than it currently is. Especially for a close-range character like Ramzey. Should not have that kind of offensive prowess from that far away. And finally, we have reached the final character in the game, Bublo. Now, right now, my opinion, which this opinion is probably very uncommon. However, I think Bublo is garbage. He is really, really bad. Like, the worst character in the game bad. Like, in his own tier levels of worst character in the game bad. It's just my opinion. You don't have to agree. However, because I think he's this bad, I'm going to give him a crazy buff. Now, bear with me here, because this might be a little insane, but it would be fun, so I don't care. So the buff that I'm going to give to him, instead of his shield ability shooting 3 shields in front of him, his shield ability is going to shoot 8 shields out, north, northeast, east, southeast. You get the point. 8 different shields shooting out in all 8 directions. So now, that might sound crazy, but hear me out. This makes it much easier for Bublo to use these shields as a team support option, because his team doesn't have to stand behind them. It's also a lot easier to use to defend yourself, because as of right now, who cares if a Bublo uses the shield, because you can just go around them. Like, so often I'll see Bublos use the shields, think they're invincible, and then forget, oh right, you can just walk around the shields. So if the shields go out in 8 different directions, it's going to be much harder for you to just walk around the shields. Not impossible, surely not impossible, but harder. This would also make it make more sense that Bublo is completely invincible while using the move. Which, I'll admit, more of a visual thing. However, fixing things like that where he's invincible from all angles while using the shields, despite them only coming out forwards, that's a little strange. But if they come out in all directions, that makes more sense. If the shields come out in every direction, that also shores up one of Bublo's weaknesses, which is just get behind him. If you just get behind Bublo it's pretty hard for him to fight back against you. But if he has these shields that he can just use whenever someone gets behind him, boom, now he has protection from all angles. His entire team also has protection as long as they want it and sit behind the shields. This is a really creative idea too. This gives Bublo an ability that no other character has. No other character has anything even close to that, which means not only is it creative and fun, it also helps out his character and is unique. So it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy, I'll admit. But I'm rolling with it because it's fucking awesome. So for nerfing Bublo, remember when I said he's completely invincible using his shields? Yeah, fuck that. No way that should be a thing. No move except for ultimates in the game can do something like that. Hello, it's me in editing again. I'm actually incorrect when I say this. The game does not make Bublo invincible from all angles upon using this move. The hitboxes of the shields are just a lot bigger than they look like when he first uses them. But even though it looks like he's invincible from all angles if you try to shoot him while he's using the shields, it's just that the hitboxes protect him from angles that it really shouldn't. Like, if you're shooting from beside him and he uses the shields, you'll end up hitting the shields anyway, even though it doesn't look like you should. So I'm actually wrong when I say it makes him invincible from all angles. So what I'm about to start saying doesn't entirely apply. However, I still think the point is made that Bublo should not have that kind of invincibility after using the move. Because even though it doesn't actually give him full body invincibility, it does give him more than it should because the hitboxes are just weird. It is ridiculous that that's a thing. I don't care how short-lived the invincibility is. The fact that you can use that to make yourself invincible against a Coiff dive, against so many of these things, and you can just immediately kill somebody because you had these invincibility frames on this quick recharging move. Nah. That is annoying as fuck. If you're using an ability that should hit Bublo, it should hit him. He should not... Unless he has his ultimate charged, in which case, sure, whatever. But the shield's making him fully invincible from every angle? No. So obviously you're allowed to disagree with every single thing I said in this video. In fact, if you do disagree, that's just proof of how well balanced this game actually is. Because if nobody can agree on what changes should happen, that means that there's not really a lot of changes that need to be made. I think the game is in a very well balanced state as it is. However, I made this video to start some discussion, and just for fun in general. So if there's any change you have strong opinions on, positive or negative, you can comment about it. I reply to every single comment I get on my videos, so your voice will be heard.